ride. Right, so here we have our webinar, which is localizing at the pace of a live service games Gridley. And we are very, very lucky to have Alex from Starbreeze, who will be presenting the live demo portion to actually kind of show you how that interaction actually works. So if I just go into the framework itself, we've got our welcomes, and then we're going to go into lots of detail about live service localization, through into kind of pre-release milestones, then the demonstration itself, and then a Q&A at the end. So it's all kind of pretty usual type stuff. Now, myself, biz dev, producer roles in internal and external development. So yes, I've kind of been doing this for a bit. And then we have Alex from Starbreeze, who's been very much focused on live operations. He's the live director there and work on Battlefront and other enormous titles, and of course Payday 3, which is one that we'll particularly be looking into today. So yeah, so kind of just talking about Gridley very briefly. I can see from the attendee list, there's lots of people here that are currently Gridley users. So great. There's no need to go into huge amounts of detail on Gridley itself, but certainly there's some people who aren't super familiar with Gridley. So basically, in a nutshell, it's a localization platform where you can manage both content and translation in one place. And the whole kind of concept is localizing efficiently. So eliminating that manual work, cutting down on translation costs, and translating faster. That's the key, with greater accuracy. And so yes, so we've also, so besides the kind of flagship CMS, we've also launched the TMS and CAP modules this year. So it's the full kind of end-to-end localization platform. So the whole process can be looked after in there. So I just want to show you this as well. So some of these people, some of the people attending today are on this here. Some aren't. But I just wanted to show you this, just to show there's lots of games, but there's also a lot of people that sit outside of games as well. So we've got people like Half in there, and Times Inc., for example, are a couple of examples there. So the CMS module, just very briefly. So we're going to focus on the content management. So again, so in the CMS, as those of you who do use Gridley are fully aware, this is where you can then organize your content, your translations, metadata in that flexible structure. So it's very, very highly adaptive to however your particular process is. You can track updates across languages and content types, bulk operations with all the different content. You can apply AI for translations, proofreading, or even generating content if you wanted to. And you can also trigger these workflow steps as well. So you can make sure that if something happens within the grid, then it then actions a bunch of other things that then fall off from the end of that. So again, it's that single source of truth for all of that kind of content in all different languages, and then really trying to remove that manual work that I was so accustomed to doing so many years ago, and we're really trying to kind of remove that kind of manual movement of anything really, and it should all be kind of in one ecosystem. Okay, and then on to the next slide. Kind of the real need for this kind of speed, this kind of the control, the kind of the requirement to ensure that things don't go missing. We've spoken about it many times about something that has been changed in the source that then doesn't then make it into the target, can totally ruin someone's experience, pull someone out of what they're trying to do at that particular moment, and just look super unprofessional as well. So yeah, basically the need for speed is the key thing there. And just to introduce Alex a bit more, and those guys there, it's we're super pleased to have Alex from Starbreeze with us today. He knows that environment. He knows kind of having to turn stuff around super quickly is so valuable, and basically kind of is able to take us through what he does. That's cool. That when I first saw it, thought this is pretty damn cool, and hopefully you think so too. So yeah, so the speed thing is like a super important thing, and so we've got like this poll that we'd like to use functionality from this particular platform, which is what is slowing down your localization workflow. Oh, here we go, and we've got this this purple panel that's appeared for us, where we can now enter some values in here. So please do answer the question. God, it feels like an interactive TV. So yeah, please feel free to add your response to this, so we can just find out what those things are. I'd imagine. Oh, there we go. Inability to work in parallel, scoring pretty highly. Or oh, hang on a second. Oh, it's like a race. Now it's being at the horses now. Right. So we've got okay. export and import of source text and translation is pretty high. Oh, translators lacking context. Okay, interesting. One of the beautiful things, of course, with Gridley is the ability to have files, of course. So you can then also push audio if you already have placeholder audio or screenshots, etc. So it allows those translators to have that context. But yes, absolutely, the import export source text is absolutely key, and that's one of the things today, obviously, that Alex will be showing. But also the fact that the ability to push directly from Unreal or Unity or whatever you might have, super key. But yes, context is really kind of surging ahead, and I think we can probably move on to the next thing. We'll probably wrap up on who won that later on. Right, okay. So now I'm going to hand over to the main event, which is Alex. Over to you, Alex.
I'm the main event. Thank you, Mike, so much for the introduction. Yeah, and it's interesting that we talk about in the poll, the waterfall processes or getting all the people involved, because yeah, indeed, localization is a team sport. And I'll try to break it down to justify this statement. So when it comes to localization, I like to separate it in two worlds, because one, you have the source text, which is in English, and it's, I guess, more a development workflow on how does text end up in the game, who writes the text, the original text, and how is it then surfaced in the UI. And then you have the localization, which is usually the step that comes later or even at the end, maybe a bit later than we would like to, which is like, okay, here is all the text, go and translate it now, and I should have the translations already in the build yesterday. So it is two different worlds for me. When it comes to the source text, that it's work that happens mostly in the engine, and that usually requires writing the text, then someone, a designer, a tech designer, creating string tables in Unreal Engine. Then we need to set up the string table IDs and in the UI so that whatever text is there is actually shown in the game. And that usually results in a text file that comes from Unreal Engine. And it's that text file that then, when localization process kicks in, we take it, we send it to the vendors, we wait for all the translations to come back on that file, and then we send that into the game. And when we have a build where all of this process is done, we can send that process to localization QA. So this is how it usually works. And that's also, I think, the workflow we have at Starbreeze. But what I would like to show is how Gridley helps us avoid maybe some of the challenges there is with this workflow and all the people involved. So before I go into showcasing Gridley, I'd like to talk about how we work, at least with this process in live. And you can see on the screen, there are many different milestones, many colorful boxes, because they are easier to differentiate this way. So of course you have development happening in a pre-alpha stage, pre-production, production of a feature, everything that makes the feature work kind of needs to happen in the alpha. And what we do on live, we usually have an alpha date for the patch, which is, it can be between 6 to 8 weeks before you go live. And by that time, the feature in the patch needs to be feature complete. It needs to be in alpha, which also means something that we test for with QA, that the text strings are there, but they might be placeholders. Sometime between alpha and beta is when we have an internal milestone that we call text lock, which means that you need to make sure that all the text that goes with that specific patch is finalized, at least from an English source text perspective. So we can export that file and send it to localization. Once we get back the localized files, we put it in the game, and we aspire to have everything, including the localized languages, by beta, so that then LQA can look at it. And we fix as many bugs as we can, which Gridley actually makes a little bit easy to fix them. And then we maybe track some other bugs for the next release. That is what happens during hardening. But the great thing with Gridley is that it connects directly with Unreal Engine, which makes some of these steps possible to work on even without being on Unreal. So the magic is that by exporting the whole string table from Unreal Engine onto Gridley, that means that for a designer or a UI developer working on a feature, all they need to do is set up the string ID. Once the string ID is set up, and it's hooked with the UI in-game, the string itself can create placeholders that are then exported to Gridley, and we can edit them there. So it becomes very easy, a very set it and forget it kind of process for the designer to just hook up the string as they work on the feature, write some placeholder text if they have to at the time. And then what happens is we export the string table to Gridley, and that's where a narrative designer can come in and review all of the strings. They know usually what text needs to go onto what string, and they can see on Gridley whether the strings have the right text on them. And then for producers, localization producers, live producers, what have you, whoever ends up working with localization in the studio, they can only need to check Gridley to see the source of truth. So whether there are placeholders, whether the strings are translated, where there certain strings had been translated but then got outdated during live, all of that happens on Gridley. If something needs editing, the editing can happen on Gridley. And then when we export Gridley and we put it back into Unreal Engine, whatever is on Gridley ends up overwriting Unreal Engine. So basically, while it's set it and forget it for the developers from in-engine, for anyone who works with text and localization on Gridley, is like, if it's correct on Gridley, it will show up correctly in game. So it is really as simple as that, and it makes the whole process of working with text strings and localizing much more accessible for a lot more people in the team, rather than only the people who have access to the engine. So for the next step, I'd like to show a little bit the workflow between Unreal Engine and Gridley, and then I can even try to do a live demonstration. But because it's live, some things may go wrong. So, don't blame me. Blame it on live. I'll try to make it work. So yeah, this is more a flow that kind of depicts the details of what I was trying to describe before. So it starts at the top left corner. The designer set up the strings ID in Unreal Engine, and then we go on Jenkins. We trigger a build job on Jenkins, and it's been set up when that job completes to take everything from Unreal Engine and push it onto Gridley. Then on Gridley, that it reflects the whole string table. Then we can filter there, not work with the whole string table at once, but only specific strings. We also have version control on Gridley, so you can set up multiple branches on Gridley so that you can filter what comes in before you put it on the master branch. And then you can also export all this work from Gridley onto CSV files or spreadsheet, what have you, that you can then send to your localization partners. So how it works for us on live, once we have identified the strings that we want to translate, and then the narrative designer has given a thumbs up that, yeah, this is the right text, we export the tables and we send it to our localization partners. They take usually a week, but that's also depending on how many strings we usually give them, and we get back the files from them. They are offline files that we can then import onto Gridly. Gridly automatically picks up the right data from the offline files and uploads it on the content management system on Gridly. And then once we have everything on Gridly, we go back to Jenkins, we do an export of strings from Gridly back into the engine, and Gridly overrides everything that was in engine. So if there were, for example, as I said before, placeholders on written during the development of a feature, if the proper text has been written on Gridly, Gridly will overwrite the placeholder that is in the engine, as long as the string ID is correct, which shouldn't change. Why would anyone change the string ID? And yeah, that way, localized data also passes from Gridly onto Unreal Engine. And then what you end up with is a string table within Unreal Engine that just has all the data you need, both the source files, the string ID, and the localized information. So now to the exciting part, showcasing this, but with our real tools. So I will share my screen and try to do that from Jenkins, show you how to trigger the job on Jenkins, and then I'll go on to Gridly to show you how we work with Gridly. So